Okay, this is going to be part two of my 2026 bookshelf tour. And because I'm getting over a sickness right now, you can probably hear it in my voice. My throat's still raw and scratchy. Actually, I have a cough drop in, you might be able to notice. But I thought I would just do a small section of my collection today. We're just going to do the books that are on my lamp shelf. It's just a lamp from Target or something. Either Target or... No, it was Target. But there are three little circular shelves there. And I have some religion and mythology and history books. I guess it's purposeful that I put them all here, but it's more so I just didn't have room elsewhere. So hopefully very short video. I haven't read too many of these, so I'm not going to have a lot to say about some of them. So pardon me if this video isn't as good as the first part. I'm just going to knock out a quick one. I've had a lot of video ideas recently that I just haven't been able to film, so getting back into it with something small. Now, book one, Dominion by Tom Holland. How the Christian Revolution Remade the World. From what I see, it's just a history of Christianity. I've wanted to read this for a while now, and I had planned to read this during quarter two of Historathon 2026. But then I saw that it goes all the way up to the modern day, which goes through the Reformation and then the last couple centuries, and I was really only interested right now in the early church fathers and then how Christianity became a dominant religion in the Middle Ages. That's what I thought the Christian Revolution was. But it turns out it's just Christianity as a whole, which I am interested in, but something about this book, I've started it a few times and it just hasn't been talking to me how it should be. So haven't read it yet, but yeah, Tom Holland. Another Tom Holland that I picked up more recently, Shadow of the Sword. This is kind of the same thing, but for Islam. It's the birth of Islam and the rise of the global Arab Empire. Also by Tom Holland, as I said. And as far as I know, this is just the same thing, but Islam. Got Muhammad, the other stuff, you know. Yeah. Here, got a Norton Critical Edition, The Classic Fairy Tales. This is edited by Maria Tatar. I read part of this last year. It takes six fairy tales. Little Red Riding Hood, Beauty and the Beast, Snow White, Cinderella, Bluebeard, Hansel and Gretel, Hans Christian Andersen, and Oscar Wilde. So, 6 fairy tales and 2 fairy talists. And one, it collects a lot of different variations and stories from these fairy tales. So like within Red Riding Hood, you have stories by Charles Perrault, the Brothers Grimm, James Thurber, Italo Calvino, Chiang Mi, and Roald Dahl. So first you get an introduction by Maria Tatar. Then you get each story that she has selected that either retells or plays on the themes or the story behind each fairy tale. And then at the end, there's, of course, it's a Norton Critical Edition, so there's a lot of critical essays, like 120 pages of critical essays in the end. And last year, I don't remember why I didn't finish this, but I read the parts on Little Red Riding Hood and Beauty and the Beast, which I thought was really fascinating to learn the different themes and motifs that fairy tales have to offer. Because when you're a kid, it's just, you don't really think about what it means. It's just a fun story, and then everybody knows the story, so you can talk to people about it or allude to it or just mention it in conversation. But there's actually a lot of different ideas to think about behind these stories, and a lot of them are actually kind of sinister, kind of dark, that you might not expect from like a lighthearted fairy tale for kids. But a lot of them, of course, are dark. I'm not a fairy tale expert by any means, but this is good, at least from what I remember. I should get back to it. But, yeah, Maria Tatar, Norton Critical Fairy Tales. Next we got World's Religions by Huston Smith, formerly called The Religions of Man before that title got canceled. But this is from the 50s, I believe, 1950s, and it goes over all the major religions, not from a historical standpoint, but from what do these religions believe? Like, what are their core tenets, their beliefs, and why is that? Not historically, but like, what is the purpose or the cause of that? And this is not a big book. It's only 400 pages, counting the index and end matter, but it packs in so much information. It's kind of overwhelming, especially for somebody who hasn't really studied religion that much at all. But this is great for high-level overview of the major religions. I especially found it valuable for learning more about Buddhism and Hinduism, which I don't really have any connection to in the Western world, in the United States where I live. I don't really see or interact with any Buddhist, Hindu, anything, or I don't even see that in the news because it's more of an Eastern thing. So what I'm saying is very little experience and knowledge about these religions. So reading about those was fascinating because I had no idea how deep and rich each of those religions were. I could have surmised that was the case, but once you actually delve into something that you hadn't thought about before, it is often enlightening. Not to pawn on Buddhism or anything. But yeah, I really liked this read. I don't think I took as much away from it as I could have, because these aren't individual studies of each religion. Like, how many pages is each chapter? Like, Hinduism was 70 pages, Buddhism was 70 pages, Islam 50, Judaism 50-ish. You got Confucianism, Taoism, Christianity, then some other primal religions. It was a good read. I need to go back to it and just focus on like a certain religion, I think, to really reinforce what they do. Like, do one at a time and not just try to read this whole book cover to cover, which was a little much for me. But yeah, overall, for what Smith tried to do, it was a good read, and I learned a lot. Not as much as I wished, but I didn't take as much as I wished. But yeah, it was good. It was good. I liked it. Last up on the top shelf, we got The Confessions of St. Augustine. This is it's an Image paperback translated by John K. Ryan with introduction and notes. I actually read over half of this. Maybe not over half of this, but over a third of this a few years ago. And I don't know why I stopped. Sometimes I just stop things, attention span and all. And yeah, but what I did like about this was it's going to sound stupid. I like the confessional nature of Augustine and his perceived moral failings and his telling us about how he came to Christianity. I thought that was really interesting. We got a little further into the book, and Augustine started doing a lot of I don't know if they were complex. I thought they were complex, like theories in theology and prayer and such. He was losing me in the second part a little. But as I said, this was a long time ago. I'd like to come back to this, of course. 5th century, one of the greatest Christian thinkers ever, St. Augustine. And I do wonder, is the John K. Ryan translation okay? Of course, I'm always on the lookout for a Penguin Classic of this, the Confessions, but I haven't found one yet in the wild. So, any advice on translators would be good for me. But, yeah, I actually read half of it. I saw some of my annotations at the halfway mark. But Confessions. I need to go quicker. Next up, Mythology by Edith Hamilton. I read this last year. These are her retellings of the Greek and Roman myths. Hamilton, she published this in 1940, I think. I like her writing style. She's great at conveying the essentials of the myths without getting bogged down in extravagant prose or complexities that we don't need as modern readers. But yeah, if you want something, it's 500 pages in mass market paperback, but if you want a nice, fun, relatively easy introduction to Greek and Roman myths, or like a reintroduction, most people know like the basics at least, especially the Percy Jackson generation that I'm in. But yeah, Hamilton, in addition to just writing well, she provides good overviews. These are just like in the beginning. You'll see there's italics here. In the beginning of every story, she says where she's pulling this from, like which mythologist. Like, is it Ovid? Is it Apollodorus? Is it from Homer or Hesiod or somebody, or one of the Greek tragedians? She says where she got it, and she gives some commentary like, oh, this is actually like a really crappy story, but it's the only one left, so we have to use it. So yeah, good, a nice solid work of mythology. I liked Bulfinch's treatment of the Greeks better than Hamilton, just by a tiny bit, just because of the writing style. But Hamilton's great, and her book as a whole succeeds, in my eyes, better than Bulfinch's as a whole. But then again, Bulfinch's is divided into 3 books, which I only read the compilation of the 3 books. I didn't read them individually, so maybe I'm losing the plot here. Prose Edda of Snorri Sturluson, one of the great Icelandic skalds, poets. This is a work that I don't really know much about, so I'm not going to talk about it, but it's from University of California Press. I want to find Snorri's King Harold saga about Harald Hardrada. He's awesome. Power of Myth by Joseph Campbell. This is a series of interviews between Joseph Campbell, the famous mythologist of the 20th century, and Bill Moyers. He was known as being a television presenter, but he might have been a writer too, or a TV producer. I'm not sure exactly. I think he had some academic merits somewhere. I might be wrong. But they're talking about Campbell's career and his ideas of myth. And this Campbell is very convoluted, and his head is in the clouds. So I found it really hard to follow him most of the time. So this was a difficult read for me. But every so often, when Campbell becomes lucid, he throws in some nice lines. I mean, it's recorded what he said, but I think they edited it a little for clarity in this written form. I don't know if I would recommend this, at least to someone not well versed in myth, but it was okay. Here we got Apollodorus, the Library of Greek Mythology. Apollodorus was a first or second century AD Greek who may or may not have been a librarian at Alexandria, the Library of Alexandria. But he wrote a lot of myths that survive today about the early Greeks. And this is the Oxford World Classic translation by Robin Hard. I have not read this yet, but I found it this year. Another Penguin classic, we got Njál's Saga. This is an older Penguin classic. This is translated with an introduction by Magnus Magnusson and Herman Paulson. Njál's Saga, written by an unknown author in the late 13th century, is the mightiest of the great Icelandic prose sagas. So this is a long, probably violent, like Viking saga, and I don't know anything about it. That's that. Here we have another set of Greek myth. This is a 2-volume set. We have Robert Graves, famous World War I poet, who also wrote I, Claudius, and did some other things too. But this is his 2-volume set of the Greek myths. And it's a little strange because the spines are upside down. The spines, this is right side up, but this is upside down. But yeah, I don't even know if I want to read this, already having read about the Greeks from Edith Hamilton and Thomas Bulfinch. But I found these at Goodwill for $1 a piece, so like, kind of hard to pass that up. Another early Penguin classic, early Irish myths and sagas. These, I don't know exactly when they were written, but they cover like the Celts, I think, before the Romans came. I don't know how to say this guy's name, like Cuchulainn. He's one of them. The cattle raid of Frioch. Cuchulainn? I don't know. I'm part Irish, so I'm interested in these myths and how they inform on contemporary Irish culture or the Irish history between now and when these were written. I think it's interesting, and how it informs on Irish conflicts between their peoples and the English, or people from the British Isles. So, Irish myths. This one, I don't know anything about it, but it's cool. African myths of origin. This is a long one. It's 500 pages. A lot of African myths. I haven't gotten to it yet. Cool cover. Penguin classic. Myths from Mesopotamia. This is a new translation by Stephanie Dalley from Oxford World Classics. How new, I don't know. But it includes Gilgamesh and the Descent of Ishtar and some other things, some theogony and creation epics. Mesopotamia, it's not all just one thing, but this is that time period, a couple, 3,000-4,000 years ago, where we got all the old stone tablets and such. So a lot of these are not edited, but like the tablets are incomplete or muffed, so we can't see everything that happens. So they just keep going, even when there's not. Like in Gilgamesh, there's like different breaks where you're like, I don't know what they said, but we're gonna keep going. I haven't read any Mesopotamian myths other than Gilgamesh, which I read in a Penguin Classic. And the final 3 books, we have Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. This was fine. It's not a brief history of humankind, but there are some interesting things that I learned from this that I hadn't thought of before. So, yeah. Then we got Debt by David Graeber. The 5,000-year history of debt. I went into this with no knowledge of economics or no knowledge of finances, any of that. So I kind of understood the history, but the actual like nitty-gritty debt talk really didn't understand. And Graeber goes pretty heavy into anthropology here because he was an anthropologist. So I ended up not really taking away anything from this book other than not liking landlords and lenders. I'm very anti-usury. What are you going to do? And then this book I have, the only one of these 3 I haven't read. We got The Dawn of Everything, A New History of Humanity by Graeber and Wengrow, the 2 Davids. As far as I know, this is their response to Sapiens. They're saying Harari didn't really do things right when he was talking about the beginning of the world and how societies evolved and interacted. So this is a huge book. I'm not really interested in reading it right now. I don't have a big interest in prehistory, like before writing. But yeah, it's a nice solid hardcover that I found at Goodwill. Those are the books that are on my lamp. Haven't read a lot. I've actually read a decent number, but less than half, I think. Yeah, sorry if this video is a little worse since I'm sick, but I wanted to film something while I had free time. So, thanks for watching, and hopefully part 3 will be my mostly Penguin Classic shelf up top. See you later.